My girlfriend was Sienna Vance, the undisputed queen of New York's high society, the kind of beautiful that men tripped over themselves for. And for 3 years, I was the guy tripping the hardest. Her cars, her handbags, the designer clothes on her back, the food she ate, the champagne she drank, I paid for all of it. But recently, she'd become obsessed with a college kid, an NYU art student named Leo. He had that clean, handsome look, pale skin, and a cool, detached vibe that drove most girls crazy. To make him laugh, during the birthday party she was throwing for me on a yacht, she shoved me into the ocean. Then she stood there and mocked me for being unable to swim. But I really am terrified of the water. I ended up in the ICU, and she ended up with her artsy dreamboat. When I woke up, she breezed into my hospital room asking for money. But I just stared at her, my face a total blank. "Excuse me, miss. Who are you?" The neurologist said the head trauma had caused targeted memory loss. She insisted she was my girlfriend, but I just shook my head. My girlfriend is Eleanor Hayes. Everyone who was anyone knew Eleanor Hayes was her mortal enemy. The calm surface of the Long Island Sound erupted. I thrashed wildly, my arms flailing as I stared up in desperation at the crowd on the yacht. The boy in the white button-down, Leo, stood at the railing, his eyes wide and deceptively innocent. Seeing me struggle, he let out a laugh. He laughed, and Sienna laughed with him. It was a genuine, unrestrained laugh, the kind that smoothed the perpetual tension from her brow. But the suffocating feeling of drowning was pure agony. I nearly drowned as a kid and have had a crippling fear of water ever since. I'd argued against a yacht party, but Sienna's pouting and pleading wore me down, as it always did. When I first stepped on board, I saw that besides our usual friends, there was a stranger. He was handsome, quiet, and didn't smile, which only made him stand out more. Sienna doted on him, pouring his drink first, cutting him the first slice of fruit, even handing him the first piece of my birthday cake. She was attentive in a way she'd never once been with me. I knew something was wrong, but I never suspected she would betray me. Not until I felt her hands on my back, pushing me into the cold, dark water. Then I knew. Sienna had moved on. She watched me sink, slowly lifting her designer sunglasses to rest on her head. She squinted down at me, a smirk playing on her lips. "Caleb, don't tell me you really can't swim. Stop the act and get back up here." You made Leo laugh, so you could drop the performance now. The laughter was like nails on a chalkboard. "Sienna, I don't think Caleb's faking it," someone yelled, finally realizing something was wrong. They tossed a life preserver in my direction, but my body was already heavy, pulling me down. "Get him out of there, Caleb." The deck descended into chaos. A few people finally managed to haul me back on board. They performed CPR over and over, but I didn't wake up. My body grew colder. That's when Sienna finally started to panic. She had me rushed to the hospital, straight into the emergency room. It took a team of doctors over 2 hours to bring me back. When the doctor announced I was out of immediate danger, Sienna let out a huge sigh of relief. If I had died, she would have been a murderer. She loved to play games, but she had no interest in going to prison. I finally woke up the next day, staring at the sterile ceiling tiles, the smell of antiseptic burning my nostrils. I felt a deep confusion. I tried to move, and a throbbing pain shot through my head. I groaned, pressing a hand to my forehead. Sienna, who had just returned to the room, saw I was awake and rushed to my side. She grabbed my hand, her voice laced with manufactured excitement. "Caleb, you're finally awake. You were out all night. I was so worried you'd never wake up." She smiled sweetly. "Perfect timing. I'm running low. Can I borrow your black card?" I yanked my hand away, staring at her with narrowed, confused eyes. "Who are you?" "Caleb, are you kidding me? It's me, your girlfriend, Sienna." She thought I was faking, and her tone grew impatient. "Look, I was wrong to push you in the water, but you don't have to be like this. You're fine now, aren't you?" "Girlfriend? What are you talking about?" "My girlfriend is Eleanor Hayes." I shoved her hand away again, my gaze sharp and wary. "What? Who did you just say is your girlfriend?" Sienna's eyes went bloodshot. She slammed her fist on the bedside table, her voice a furious roar. Eleanor Hayes was her nemesis. Had been since they were kids. She'd always lost to Eleanor, and she hated her with a passion. You couldn't even say her name around Sienna. I looked around the empty hospital room, then back at Sienna's enraged face as she moved toward me. "Who are you? Get away from me. I don't know you." I yelled. My shouts brought a doctor running. A nurse, seeing how agitated I was, gently escorted Sienna out of the room and asked her to wait in the hall. The doctor ran a series of tests and asked me a lot of questions. When he was done, he told me to get some rest. Sienna was still standing in the hallway. Having had a moment to cool off, she rushed the doctor as soon as he came out. "Doctor, what's wrong with my boyfriend? Why doesn't he recognize me?" And why does he think some other woman is his girlfriend? The trauma to his brain may have caused some memory disruption. It's possible it will resolve over time. For now, try not to agitate him, the doctor advised. Sienna didn't believe a word of it. How could he possibly forget only her? The moment the doctor was gone, she stormed back into the room and pinned me against the bed. I'll push you into the ocean, so what? Is that really a reason to fake amnesia? She demanded, her face inches from mine. Nurses heard the commotion and rushed in, pulling her off me. What kind of girlfriend are you? Stop agitating him, or he might never remember you. One of the nurses warned, glancing through the small window in the door at me huddled on the bed. Sienna just scoffed. She wanted to see how long I could keep up the act. A little while later, my parents arrived. Sienna was so afraid of them finding out she'd pushed me into the ocean that she hadn't even told them I was in the hospital. The Van Cess had status in New York, but the Shaw family's influence was not to be underestimated. Besides, Vance Industries was teetering on the edge of collapse and desperately needed an investment from my father. And I personally held the core technology that was keeping their company afloat. Sienna needed my family's resources, and she needed me. Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, you have to see this. Caleb's putting on such a convincing act. He's pretending he doesn't know me. He even grabbed my arm just now. Sienna whined to my parents, playing the victim. They were terrified. They rushed to my bedside, pointing at themselves. Caleb, do you know who we are? My parents were afraid I'd forgotten them. Dad, Mom, what are you talking about? Of course I know you, I said with a weak smile, trying to calm their worried expressions. They both breathed a sigh of relief. Then, looking at my pale, exhausted face, their eyes filled with pain. My mother stroked my cheek. Caleb, the doctor said you nearly drowned, that you were in resuscitation all night. You're terrified of the water. Why would you go near the ocean? Just then, Sienna walked back in. I pointed a finger at her and yelled, Dad, Mom, this woman is crazy. Make her leave. Just looking at her makes me sick. She says she's my girlfriend. But my girlfriend is Eleanor Hayes, right? I clutched my mother's hand, my eyes wide and certain. My parents' faces froze. They took out their phones, showing me photos one by one. I recognized everyone except Sienna. The only person I identified as my partner was Eleanor. Sienna still thought I was faking. She blew it off, and on the day I was discharged, she went out to lunch with Leo. She had asked him out countless times before, and he'd finally said yes. She didn't hesitate, picking him up in the sports car I'd bought her with my first ever bonus. Her arrival caused a stir on the NYU campus. Once in the car, Leo glanced at Sienna, his expression as cool and detached as ever. Is your boyfriend okay? He asked softly. Him? What could happen to him? He's got more lives than a cat, Sienna said, trying to sound casual and charming. That afternoon, she took him shopping at a series of luxury boutiques on Madison Avenue, spending hundreds of thousands on my credit card for him. She topped it off with a candlelight dinner at the most expensive restaurant in the city. But when she dropped him off at his dorm, he refused all the gifts. Sienna was completely hooked on this kind of boy. The thrill of a chase was back. That night, she took her friends to a club in the meatpacking district to celebrate. People were congratulating her, wishing her a swift victory in conquering Leo. But her best friend, Chloe, looked concerned. Sienna, aren't you and Caleb getting married soon? Isn't this wrong? Besides, he just got out of the hospital. Shouldn't you be with him? Chloe reminded her. Sienna put down her glass and scoffed, completely unconcerned. If a woman doesn't have some fun before she gets married, when is she supposed to? I've been bored for 3 years. The sight of Caleb makes my skin crawl. I wouldn't even let him shine my shoes now. It's not every day I find someone this interesting, so don't ruin my fun. Her tone was careless, dismissive. A few others at the table laughed in agreement. Aren't you afraid he'll really forget you? Chloe pressed, frowning. Sienna had just raised her glass to her lips. She paused, her brow furrowing slightly before she let out a cold laugh. Forget me? Did you not see the way he used to worship me? Does he dare forget? And so what if he does? I was sick of that pathetic, groveling act anyway. During her rant, Chloe nervously tugged at her arm a few times. But Sienna shook her off, finally letting out all the thoughts she'd held back for so long. That self-righteous phony Caleb can't even begin to compare to Leo. Sienna's voice was dripping with mockery. Chloe pointed behind her. Caleb, she whispered. Sienna froze, her head whipping around. I was standing right behind her. She was so shocked she could barely speak. C.A. Caleb, didn't you just get out of the hospital today? W, what are you doing at a club? She dropped her glass, stood up, and forced a strained smile as she walked toward me. My gaze was flat, sweeping over her without a flicker of emotion. My indifference to her words seemed to stun her. If I'd heard her say something like that before, I would have started a huge fight, probably stormed out dramatically. But now I didn't argue. I just looked at her like she was a stranger. Caleb, she tried again. My lips curved into a slight smile, but it wasn't for her. My eyes lit up, focused on something over her shoulder. Sienna saw the change in my expression and, thinking I wasn't angry, moved closer. But I stepped right past her, heading straight for a woman in a long blue dress. I opened my arms and wrapped her in a hug. Eleanor, I've missed you so much. Eleanor wore a light, clean perfume that cut through the club's stale, alcohol-heavy air. I hugged her gently around her waist, my eyes meeting hers over her long, curled lashes. Her eyes were bright and clear. Eleanor, I said again, my voice low and soft. The woman looked up at me, her pupils constricting for a second. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. Let go of her. Sienna, seeing us together, turned crimson with rage. She rushed over and tore me away from Eleanor. Caleb, are you insane? You have a girlfriend, and you're hitting on another woman? And of all people, you're hitting on this bitch. Seeing her crude, irrational behavior, I frowned, pushed her hand away, and stepped in front of Eleanor, shielding her. Eleanor, she's just some lunatic who's been following me around. Don't pay her any mind, I said, turning to Eleanor with a gentle, reassuring tone. The word lunatic was the final straw. Sienna completely lost it. In front of the entire club, she pointed a shaking finger at me and screamed, Caleb, are you done with this act? So I pushed you into the ocean. You're fine, aren't you? Is that any reason to fake amnesia? Eleanor is not your girlfriend. I am. A wave of murmurs rippled through the club. Thanks to her outburst, everyone in New York now knew that I'd forgotten my famous socialite girlfriend. Just a few weeks ago, I'd proposed to Sienna in a live-streamed event. She had accepted my ring and a pre-wedding gift of $50 million. No one could have predicted this. What are you talking about? Eleanor is my girlfriend, I said, holding Eleanor's hand tightly. My gaze was firm, without a hint of hesitation or deceit. Eleanor's eyes widened slightly. She looked up at me, studying my face for a moment, before her expression fell, returning to its usual cool composure. Seeing us exchange a look sent Sienna into a jealous rage. She lunged forward to pull me away, but I held on to Eleanor, shoving Sienna back with my free hand. Can you please stay away from me? I said, my voice rising in anger. Or I won't be so polite. Sienna, incensed, slapped me hard across the face. A sharp, stinging heat spread across my cheek. I stood there stunned. Caleb, there's a limit to how pathetic you can be. Sienna screamed. My face went cold. I raised my hand and slapped her back. How dare you hit me, you imposter? I roared. Sienna was completely shocked. For years, I had treated her like a queen, catering to her every whim, never letting her feel the slightest discomfort. I cooked for her, washed her clothes, even washed her feet. This was the first time I had ever laid a hand on her. Without another word, I took Eleanor's hand and walked out of the club. Sienna tried to follow, but Chloe grabbed her arm and pulled her back to the couch. Don't stop me. I'm going to teach those two cheaters a lesson. Sienna yelled, her fists clenched. She had never been so publicly humiliated. Before this, she was the untouchable queen of New York society. Men fell over themselves to get her attention. Sienna, that's enough, Chloe said with a sigh. Sienna whipped her head around to glare at her friend. You're my best friend. Are you taking that bitch's side now? Of course I'm on your side. But can't you go a little easier on Caleb? He's still your boyfriend, and he just got out of the hospital. He's not supposed to be under stress, Chloe pleaded softly. That bastard Caleb is one step away from sleeping with her, and you want me to just take it? Sienna's anger was boiling over. Chloe's expression turned cold. And you have the nerve to talk about Caleb? Aren't you even worse? She couldn't watch anymore. Splash! Sienna grabbed a glass and threw its contents in Chloe's face. The liquor dripped down her cheeks, soaking her shirt. Am I the same as Caleb? I'm allowed to like other people. He's not, Sienna declared, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Chloe wordlessly wiped her face, looking up at Sienna with eyes full of disappointment. As of tonight, Chloe and Sienna are no longer friends, she said, her voice flat. Then she turned and walked out of the club without looking back. Sienna didn't care. She went back to drinking with her other friends, back to the glittering, empty lifestyle she loved. Losing one friend meant nothing to her. The next morning, the sun shone just as brightly. The first thing Sienna did was go see Leo, bringing the luxury goods she'd bought for him the other day. The boy was as cool as ever, his eyes clear and innocent. He glanced from his shopping bags in one of her hands to the hot coffee in the other, and decisively took the coffee. It was still steaming, a welcome warmth in his palm on the crisp morning. Sienna's thoughtfulness was flawless. Did you need something this early? Leo's face was still unsmiling, but his eyes had softened considerably. For you, Leo, Sienna said, holding out the bags with a smile. At the sight of the designer brands, Leo's brow furrowed. You don't really think you can buy me with a few pairs of shoes and some clothes, do you? What do you take me for? He took a step back. Of course not, Leo. I know you don't care about this stuff. I just wanted to get you a gift. I just want you to be happy, Sienna cooed. After much persuading, Leo finally accepted the gifts. Once she had smoothed things over and arranged another dinner date, Sienna drove to my parents' house. Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, what do you mean Caleb didn't come home last night? Sienna barely managed to stop herself from screaming at my parents. Sienna, Caleb doesn't remember you right now. Please be patient with him, my mother said, her face full of guilt. Mrs. Shaw, please call him for me, Sienna said, forcing her anger down. My mother made the call. Sienna overheard the address, a 5-star hotel. She felt like her lungs were about to explode. She jumped in her car and raced to the hotel, pounding on the room door like a madwoman, startling the other guests. Ma'am, please calm down. If you continue, I'll have to call security, the hotel manager warned. Sienna started beating the door with her handbag. My boyfriend is in there sleeping with another woman. And you want me to be calm? She shrieked at him before turning her rage back to the door. Caleb, you shameless bastard. You're not opening the door because you're hiding someone in there, aren't you? Did you sleep with that whore Eleanor Hayes? Sienna was losing her mind. The boyfriend she'd been stringing along for 3 years, a man she'd never even touched, had been taken by another woman. She wanted to kill them both. The door didn't open, but the police arrived. Only then did I open it. I stood there, arms crossed, looking at the raving woman with disgust. I pointed at her. This woman is insane. I don't know her, but she keeps harassing me. My words sent Sienna over the edge. Her eyes were bloodshot as she pushed past the police officers in front of her and burst into the room, looking ready to commit murder. That slut Eleanor has to be in here. She tore the room apart, but there was no trace of another woman. Still unconvinced, she grabbed me by the collar. Where did you hide her? The shouting sent a sharp pain through my head. The police officers pulled her away as I crumpled to the floor, clutching my head. My head hurts. I groaned, my face pale and twisted in pain. Then I passed out. Sir, this gentleman checked in alone last night. There's a limit to making false accusations, the hotel manager said to Sienna, dialing for an ambulance. Sienna stood frozen. Seeing me motionless on the floor, she finally felt a pang of fear. She tried to go with the paramedics to the hospital, but the police stopped her. Caleb, she whispered, her voice finally softening as she watched them load me onto the stretcher. But the police weren't interested in her sudden display of affection. They took her down to the station, and it wasn't until that afternoon that she was released. The first thing she did was rush to the hospital. My father saw her coming, and his face immediately hardened. His eyes were red with anger. Look what you've done to my son, and you still have the nerve to show your face? Are you trying to kill him? Mr. Shaw, Sienna started, but I cut her off. Dad, get her out of here. The sight of her makes me sick. I spat, glaring at her with disgust. And she keeps pretending to be my girlfriend, when everyone knows Eleanor is my girlfriend. Eleanor's name was Sienna's trigger point. It set her off instantly. Caleb, I am your girlfriend. I am your girlfriend, she screamed again, a desperate reminder. I used to call her my one and only. Now, I was using that title for her mortal enemy. She couldn't handle it. Seeing her shouting and my hands flying to my head in pain, my mother pulled her out of the room. Sienna, I'm begging you, please stop upsetting him, she pleaded, her own eyes red. He's lost his memory. He doesn't remember you. I'm sorry, Sienna muttered, swallowing her rage. Buzz. Her phone vibrated. The fire in her chest was still burning, but the moment she saw the message, her features softened into a smile. It was from Leo. He was asking her to a movie that night. From my bed, I watched her expression change. She didn't even glance my way. She said a quick goodbye to my mother and rushed out of the hospital, empty-handed, without a single look back. I let my gaze drop and sank back against the pillows, breathing a sigh of relief. I was drifting off to sleep when a cool sensation on my cheek startled me awake. My eyes snapped open, instantly on guard, but the person standing over me wasn't Sienna. It was Eleanor. My face broke into a wide grin. I sat up quickly. Eleanor, I knew you cared about me. You ran off and left me all alone last night. I was starting to think you didn't want me as your boyfriend anymore. Eleanor's expression tightened as she reached out to steady me. My parents walked in just then, surprised to see her. Ms. Hayes, what a surprise. What brings you here? My father asked respectfully. Eleanor Hayes was a major player in New York. A woman from a wealthy family, yes, but also a decisive and brilliant leader. Under her management, Hayes Enterprises had systematically crushed Vance Industries in just 3 years. Even Sienna's father had to book an appointment to see her. Eleanor lowered her eyes for a moment before looking up at my parents, a faint blush on her cheeks. A friend of mine is in the hospital. I saw Caleb was here and just wanted to pop in and see how he was doing. My father, seeing no flaw in her story, simply nodded with a smile. But my mother's eyes were drawn to the takeout containers and a bouquet of roses on the bedside table. She walked closer and saw the steam rising from the food. "Eleanor, what is all this?" she asked, surprised. Eleanor's clear eyes flickered with a hint of panic. "Oh, I just grabbed it on my way," she said softly. "After all, Caleb and I were classmates at Columbia." "Classmates? What are you talking about? You're my girlfriend." I immediately retorted. I grabbed her hand and took out my phone, snapping a picture of our joined hands. Her skin was incredibly fair, her hands soft and smooth in mine. "I'm posting this on Instagram," I announced. "Otherwise, people might not know you're my girlfriend." Before she could react, I'd posted the photo and was already opening the food container she brought. The aroma of braised short ribs, meatballs, and several other meticulously arranged side dishes filled the room. They were all my favorite comfort foods from my college days. I opened the other thermos and found it was bone broth. Looking at the spread, I felt a lump form in my throat, my eyes stinging. But the feeling passed as quickly as it came, and I was back to normal. My mother watched me eat with gusto, then turned to the quiet and elegant Eleanor with a grateful smile. "Eleanor, this is so thoughtful. We were just about to ask Caleb what he wanted to eat, and here you are." "It's no trouble, Mrs. Shaw," Eleanor replied, her cheeks still pink as she glanced at me. While I was eating, my parents quietly pulled Eleanor aside. "Eleanor, Caleb had an accident recently. He's mistaken you for Sienna. I'm so sorry for any trouble he's caused you. You don't have to play along. We'll handle it," my mother explained gently. "It's no trouble at all," Eleanor said without a moment's hesitation. She didn't stay long, though. A phone call summoned her back to her company. The next day, the photo of our hands was all over social media. Of course, Sienna saw it. She had just woken up in a hotel room, still savoring the memory of a passionate kiss with Leo the night before. She was a little disappointed she hadn't sealed the deal, but it just proved how innocent he was. Comparing him to Caleb, Leo was 1,000 times better, 1,000 times more handsome, 1,000 times purer. As she was lost in thought, her phone began buzzing nonstop. She picked it up and saw a flood of messages telling her to check Instagram. She opened the app, and her eyes went wide. Crash! She hurled her phone against the wall, where it shattered. Then she grabbed a pillow and threw it across the room. "Caleb, that bastard!" she screamed, so angry she could barely breathe. But beneath the rage, a seed of panic began to sprout. By the time she arrived at my parents' house, that unease had spread through her entire body. My devotion to her hadn't just been good. It had been absolute. She was certain, absolutely certain, that I loved her. Back in college, she'd been flirting with some guy whose girlfriend found out and sent people after her. Sienna had run, terrified. To save her, I'd jumped in the way and taken a blow from a heavy pipe for her. It broke one of my ribs and put me in the hospital for weeks. But now, I was on Instagram, officially announcing that my girlfriend was Eleanor Hayes. It could only mean one thing. I really had lost my memory. She was gone from my mind. A strange anxiety gnawed at her. That anxiety peaked the moment Eleanor showed up. Seeing the four of us, me, my parents, and Eleanor, looking like a happy family, Sienna stormed over and blocked our path. "Caleb," she yelled. My eyes widened in surprise as I looked up at her. The love bites on her neck were impossible to miss. She marched right up to Eleanor, pointed a finger in her face, and snarled, "Have you no shame? Caleb is my boyfriend. What are you doing fawning all over him? Stay away from him." Seeing the tension escalate, I stepped forward and shoved Sienna away. "Don't touch her." I stood in front of Eleanor, my eyes fixed on Sienna with a sharp glare. Sienna froze. It was the same protective glare I'd given her back in college. But this time, the person I was protecting was Eleanor. "Caleb, I'm your girlfriend. You're driving me crazy, Caleb," she cried, her eyes red and filled with tears of frustration. My expression remained cold, as if I were looking at a complete stranger. "Ms. Vance, that's enough. Please stop harassing me. I only have one girlfriend, and that's Eleanor. I love her, and I don't want anyone else." Sienna's eyes blazed with fury. She raised her hand to slap me. Perhaps remembering my parents were watching, she stopped herself, shot Eleanor a venomous look, and stormed back to her car, speeding off in the direction of the hospital. As soon as she was gone, I turned back to Eleanor, my voice softening. "Did that lunatic hurt you?" The gentle question seemed to startle Eleanor. A ripple of emotion crossed her eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. I have to get back to the office, she said abruptly. After a hurried goodbye to my parents, she practically fled, disappearing in a blur. I watched her flustered retreat and chuckled to myself. Had Eleanor's ears just turned red? 3 days later, I couldn't stand being cooped up at home anymore. I put on a suit, grabbed my portfolio, and went straight to Hayes Enterprises. The HR manager took one look at my resume, and her eyes nearly popped out of her head. She ran to find Eleanor, practically vibrating with excitement. Ms. Hayes, you know that designer we've been trying to poach for ages? Caleb Shaw? He just walked in off the street. Should we offer him whatever it takes? Where is he? Eleanor shot up from her desk. In the conference room. Before the words were even out of the HR manager's mouth, Eleanor was gone. The manager followed, only to find a famously calm and collected Eleanor Hayes standing outside the conference room door, hesitating to go in. Give him whatever he wants. Just get him signed, Eleanor ordered. The HR manager nodded. A few minutes later, she was back in Eleanor's office, beaming. Ms. Hayes, he's hired, and he didn't even have any salary requirements. My job posting must have really worked wonders to attract such a major talent. Eleanor gave her a cool look. He's here because of me, she stated simply. The HR manager just blinked. After joining Hayes Enterprises, I threw myself into my work. Using the core technologies I had developed, I solved several major problems for the company. I even accompanied Eleanor to a gala hosted by a foreign billionaire. Not long after we arrived, I saw Sienna. She was in a white gown, looking stunning, with a tall, handsome young man by her side. People around her were fawning, congratulating her on her handsome new boyfriend. And that boyfriend was none other than Leo. I stood on the lawn, my gaze cutting through the crowd to where Sienna was clinging to the handsome boy's arm. My expression hardened. She was the center of attention, holding court, arrogant and radiant. Perhaps sensing my stare, her eyes swept in my direction. The moment she saw me, her confident facade crumbled. She dropped Leo's arm and hurried toward me. I looked away, bringing the rim of a wine glass to my lips and taking a sip. The red wine was slightly bitter. Caleb, what are you doing here? I don't remember seeing your name on the guest list, Sienna said, her voice tight. Beads of sweat formed on her forehead as she rushed to explain herself, constantly glancing back at Leo, whose expression was souring. I turned my back on her. I couldn't find you, so I asked Leo to come with me. Please don't get the wrong idea, she continued, her voice pleading. Just then, Leo walked over. Caleb, you don't need to misunderstand the relationship between me and Sienna. We're just ordinary friends, he said, his tone a perfect blend of sincerity and consideration, as if he were helping Sienna out of a jam. Sienna looked at him with admiration. In her eyes, Leo was cool, calm, and composed. Nothing like me with my petty, foolish jealousy. I'm sorry, Miss Vance, but I don't know you very well, I said, my voice cold. I glanced at Leo, then my tone sharpened. Frankly, I don't care who you bring to these events. It has nothing to do with me. However, if you continue to harass me, I will call the police. Caleb, I'm your girlfriend. Sienna insisted through gritted teeth. I gave her a withering look, my gaze shifting to Eleanor, who was walking toward me. She wore a stunning burgundy gown, her hair swept up, her expression warm and confident. I was momentarily captivated. I pushed Sienna aside. Excuse me, my girlfriend is here. I walked over and took Eleanor's hand as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Eleanor, where have you been? I've been waiting for you, I said, smiling at her beautiful face. Eleanor looked up at Sienna, about to answer me, when a group of executives surrounded us. We rarely see Ms. Hayes with a date, one of them noted, looking at me with curiosity. This gentleman looks familiar. This is Caleb Shaw, an employee in my company. Eleanor introduced me. At those words, Sienna's head snapped up. She couldn't contain her fury any longer. She grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the villa's entrance. The crowd watched, stunned. Wait a minute. Isn't Caleb Shaw Sienna Vance's boyfriend? Then who is that guy? All eyes turned to Leo. Leo's face flushed with humiliation. He shot a glare at the gossiping onlookers and hurried out of the villa, only to be met with the sound of Sienna's furious shouting. Caleb, have you lost your mind? Forgetting me is one thing, but have you forgotten that you work for Vance Industries? Why did you go work for Hayes Enterprises? Sienna screamed. I held the core technology for her family's company. I had spent years of my life single-handedly rescuing Vance Industries from the brink. I've been working at Hayes for a month now, since I recovered. I'm a full-time employee, I stated calmly. Sienna was dumbfounded. She had spent the entire month chasing Leo, completely oblivious to everything else. As we were talking, Leo stalked past us, his face a thundercloud. Sienna saw him. Seeing his unhappiness, she immediately let go of me and grabbed his arm. Leo, where are you going? Her voice was soft, pleading. Leo stopped and turned to face her. His usually calm, cool demeanor was gone, replaced by simmering anger. Sienna, what do you take me for? I only agreed to come with you after you begged me for a month. But do you know what people in there are saying about me? They're calling me a boy toy. I haven't done anything with you. Why should I have to put up with this humiliation? Leo snapped. Who said that? I'll go teach them a lesson. Sienna was heartbroken to see Leo so upset. I'm leaving. Leo shook off her hand and strode toward the street. Sienna didn't hesitate. She ran after him, coaxing him into the passenger seat of her car. Only after she had settled him and did, she seemed to remember I was still there. Caleb, I'll explain this later, she said quickly before getting into the car. In the passenger seat, Leo rolled down the window. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a dismissive, triumphant smirk. It was the look of a victor gloating over the vanquished. He had her wrapped around his little finger, treating her like a dog on a leash. The next day, Sienna stormed into the Hayes Enterprises building. But this time, she wasn't looking for me. She went straight to Eleanor's office, causing a huge commotion. I put down my work and rushed over. Inside her office, Eleanor heard the noise. She looked up at the furious Sienna, then calmly signed the last document on her desk. Sienna was enraged by her composure. She grabbed a glass of water and threw it in Eleanor's face. Eleanor, you're a real piece of work. It's bad enough you pretended to be me to get close to Caleb, but now you've hired him at your company. What are you planning? Sienna ranted. Eleanor's expression remained unchanged as she wiped the water from her face. Give it back to me. You thief. Sienna believed Eleanor had stolen me, had stolen my love for her. I'm sorry, I can't do that. Eleanor's voice was clear, but her eyes had turned to ice. Sienna laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. She grabbed Eleanor's collar. Caleb is mine. He's my lapdog. Don't think you can keep him just because he thinks you're me right now. Caleb belongs to himself. I can't force him to do anything, Eleanor said, not fighting back, but her gaze was unwavering. Hearing this, Sienna slapped Eleanor across the face. The doctors said Caleb will get his memory back this month. When he does, he'll come back to me. The person he loves is me. Sienna sneered, looking down at her. Eleanor's eyes dimmed with a sorrow she couldn't hide. She had asked the doctor, too. This was the last month. Sienna, you psycho, get away from her. I had gotten the key card to the office from Eleanor's assistant. I burst in and saw the red mark on Eleanor's cheek. My brow furrowed in anger, and I shoved Sienna away. I rushed to Eleanor's side, gently touching her swollen cheek. Eleanor, does it hurt? I asked, my voice full of concern. Eleanor didn't speak. She just stared at me, her hand gripping my sleeve as if she was afraid I would disappear. Caleb, stay out of this. I'm going to teach this shameless bitch a lesson today. Sienna lunged at Eleanor again. I snapped. Who's the real bitch here? You dare touch her again. I roared, the veins in my neck standing out. Sienna froze. Caleb, you're yelling at me. For her? She asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. Why are you protecting her like this? Caleb, you're going to drive me insane. I'm your girlfriend. I don't have a girlfriend like you. A sharp pain pierced my chest, and my eyes welled up unexpectedly. Sienna, refusing to believe I would hurt her, grabbed a nearby vase and hurled it straight at Eleanor. Seeing that Eleanor wasn't moving to dodge it, I ran and shielded her with my body. The vase shattered against my arm, drawing blood. I looked at the still furious Sienna, my eyes filled with nothing but despair. I shoved her away forcefully. Sienna, if you don't get out now, I'm calling the cops. Sienna stumbled into the corner of a desk, bruising her arm. Seeing me pull out my phone, she finally backed down, though her heart was filled with bitterness. As she left, she threw one last threat over her shoulder. Caleb, you'll regret this. I watched her go, feeling utterly disgusted. Regret? Never. As soon as Sienna was gone, Eleanor frantically started cleaning my wound. Seeing the bruise already forming on my arm, her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Caleb, she said, her voice choked. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. Seeing her cry, I clumsily tried to wipe her tears away with my hand. I'm fine, it doesn't hurt, I said earnestly. But why didn't you dodge? You don't have to be polite with people like Sienna. You should fight back when you need to. Getting hit isn't a big deal. I'm willing. She looked up at me, her clear eyes clouded with sadness. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Greedy people deserve to be punished. I stared at her, stunned. After leaving Hayes Enterprises, Sienna went straight to NYU. When Leo saw the bruise on her arm, he hesitated outside the car for a moment, waiting until she seemed calm before getting in. Is Caleb stupid? Why did he have to forget me? And now he dares to hit me. Sienna vented, slamming her fists on the steering wheel as she replayed the scene in her mind. From her rant, Leo pieced together what had happened. Maybe Caleb doesn't love you that much, he said, his hand gently resting on her thigh. He looked at her with a sympathetic expression. Who would forget the person they truly love? If it were me, I would never forget the person I love, and I would never hurt them. Sienna was deeply moved. Leo was young, handsome, and so considerate. He really was 1,000 times better than Caleb. She slowly leaned in, and this time Leo didn't pull away. He comforted her with a kiss. Sienna melted into his embrace. The two of them were lost in each other for a while. She felt young again. Her face flushed as she covered him in kisses. Afterwards, she showered him with money. Hearing he was low on clothes, she bought him a new wardrobe and even a luxury condo. I heard people talking about it when I arrived on campus. I paused for a second, but then kept walking. Today, I was representing Hayes Enterprises as a guest lecturer at my alma mater. I went to the classroom early to set up. I stepped out for a minute, and when I returned, I overheard a few male voices from inside. Leo, is it true that old lady Sienna Vance bought you a condo? Of course it's true, and I've got more designer stuff than I know what to do with. Leo glanced at his fawning roommates and smirked. She's just a stupid woman. I mentioned something offhand, and she falls all over herself to spend money on me. As they were talking, another guy chimed in. But Leo, I heard Sienna Vance has a fiancé. A fiancé? Just some guy with amnesia. He's no threat. You guys have no idea. That woman is so head over heels for me right now. If I told her to jump off a bridge, she'd probably do it. She's my little puppy dog. Leo scoffed. The moment the words left his mouth, I walked in. Leo shot to his feet, his face a mask of terror. Why you? What are you doing here? Leo stammered, his face pale. I ignored him, walked to the lectern, and continued organizing my presentation materials. Leo, you know this professor? One of his friends asked. He's our guest lecturer. I heard he's from Hayes Enterprises, and he's an alum. Super successful. Leo didn't hear a word they said. His brow was furrowed, his face as white as a sheet. I delivered my lecture flawlessly. Afterwards, the students filed out, but Leo remained in his seat. Once the classroom was empty, he walked up to me, his expression anxious. The person Sienna loves is me. Don't even think about trying to break us up, Leo said, his voice cold. My hand, resting on a mouse, paused. I straightened up and looked at the young, handsome student. A small, humorless laugh escaped my lips. Mr. Chun, a clear conscience fears no ghosts. Buzz. A text message. It was from Eleanor. I'm at the main gate. She had become incredibly clingy lately. Before, she would never contact me unless I reached out first. Now, it was like she wanted to be attached at my hip. I paid Leo no more mind, gathered my things, and hurried out of the building. When I saw her familiar car, I broke into a run, waving with a smile. Eleanor. She took me to an upscale restaurant, and after dinner, we went to an amusement park. The place was bustling with energy, and I was having a great time. But Eleanor's expression suddenly grew serious. She turned to me, her eyes dark and hesitant. Her voice was so low I could barely hear it. Caleb, have you ever considered that I might not be your girlfriend? I paused, my lips parting to speak, but she cut me off. I saw this watch when I was shopping and thought it looked nice. I bought it for you. She didn't wait for my answer. She took the watch out of its box and carefully fastened it around my left wrist. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as if she were afraid I would reject it. I'd seen her in action at the company, decisive, commanding, rarely smiling. This careful, almost timid version of her was new to me. She seemed to do a lot of things on the way. On her way, she'd stopped by the hospital to see me. On her way, she'd bought me food and flowers. And now, on her way, she'd bought me a watch. It's beautiful. I love it, I said, smiling at her. Seeing her face still tense and unsmiling, I pulled her down to sit on a bench. The moment we sat, she gripped my hand, her clear eyes staring into mine. You haven't considered that what I said might be true, she asked softly. My smile faded. I looked up at the sky, which was slowly growing dark, my own expression mirroring it. Eleanor, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, I said after a moment, patting the back of her hand reassuringly. I have a request, she said, her tone serious. Go on. The watch. Can you promise you'll never take it off? No matter what you remember, please don't take it off. There was a pleading note in her voice. Why would I ever take this off? It's gorgeous, I said, covering the watch protectively with my other hand. I looked at her solemn face and grinned. I'm going to wear it when I eat, when I sleep, when I shower. I'm going to wear it everywhere. At that, her expression finally softened, and a small smile appeared. She was stunning when she smiled, like a painting come to life. "Come on, let's take some pictures," I said, pulling her into a hug. We took a bunch of photos, and I picked a few of the best ones to post on Instagram. That night, Sienna showed up at my house. It wasn't about the photos. It was about Leo. "Caleb, what is wrong with you? Going all the way to his university just to humiliate him. So you almost drowned. Did it break your brain too?" "Forget me, fine. But Leo is a kind, sweet boy. Why would you bully him? He's usually so strong, but because of you, he cried all night." Sienna was more furious than I had ever seen her. "I bullied him?" I asked, frowning. "He was crying," she shot back, her face a mask of disgust. I lowered my head, letting out a bitter laugh. I took a deep breath. "Ms. Vance, you keep claiming to be my girlfriend, to be the person who loves me. But your actions tell a very different story." Sienna was taken aback. "You were the one who started things with Eleanor first," she retorted, grasping for a justification. "Exactly," I said. "So from now on, I'm going to be with Eleanor. I'm going to marry her, and we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. So please, go be with your Leo, and leave me alone." My voice was pleading. Hearing this, Sienna panicked. "I forbid it. I love you, Caleb. You can't marry Eleanor." She grabbed my hand, her eyes bloodshot and desperate. "Love? Do you even know what you're saying?" I laughed coldly, my own eyes turning red. I pointed to my chest. "In here, I feel nothing for you. When I see you, all I feel is disgust. Absolute, soul-crushing disgust. You make me want to vomit. You have amnesia. You'll remember later." Sienna couldn't stand the cold, loathing look in my eyes. Amnesia? The thought almost made me laugh out loud. I pushed her out and slammed the door. The moment it was closed, my eyes filled with tears and they streamed down my face. "Caleb, don't do something you'll regret." Sienna yelled from outside. I didn't answer. She didn't stay long. Sienna returned to the condo and, in a fit of rage, flipped the table over. The loud crash startled Leo, who was in another room playing video games. He ran out to find Sienna sitting on the couch, fuming. "What's wrong?" he asked cautiously. "Caleb said he's going to marry Eleanor, but he's supposed to marry me. Do you think he'll never remember me?" The memory of Caleb's disgusted expression sent a sharp pain through her heart. He had never, ever looked at her like that before. Leo frowned at her words, but forced a reassuring tone. "How could that be? Didn't the doctor say he would remember? Although, I did hear from a classmate that they saw Caleb and that Eleanor woman at the amusement park. They looked really happy, just like a real couple." At that, Sienna remembered the photos I had posted. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through my Instagram feed. Every single post was about Eleanor. It was filled with photos of the two of us, smiling, looking for all the world like a real couple. Sienna's hands began to tremble. She had been so focused on chasing Leo that she had no idea how close I had gotten to Eleanor. When Sienna and I first got together, I was just like this, taking her out for nice meals, buying her gifts, calling and texting her constantly. But now, her phone had been silent for a long time. No calls from me, no messages. It was as if I had vanished from her world. A profound sense of loss hit her, like a physical blow. The next morning, she was waiting for me outside the Hayes Enterprises building. I saw her as I got out of Eleanor's car. Eleanor saw her too. I ignored her, took Eleanor's hand, and walked into the building with a smile. Sienna didn't follow us in. She just watched. But by that evening, she couldn't hold it in any longer. She ran up to us, her eyes red, holding out her phone. She scrolled through old photos of us together, pointing at my smiling face. "Caleb, look closely. I am your girlfriend. How can you be laughing and smiling with another woman? How could you do this to me?" Eleanor's expression tensed, and her grip on my hand tightened. Sienna kept flipping through photos, trying to jog my memory, but I just stared at her with a cold, detached expression. "I'm sorry, Ms. Vance. Even if you Photoshop us together, it doesn't make us a couple. The only person I remember is Eleanor. The only person I know as my girlfriend is Eleanor," I said calmly. Then, I turned and walked away, pulling Eleanor with me. Sienna watched us go, her eyes burning with tears. She couldn't accept it. She would never accept it. She drove to the hospital and slammed her hands on the doctor's desk. "You told me Caleb would remember me within 3 months. Why doesn't he remember me yet?" The doctor was startled by her outburst. "Ms. Vance, in my experience, 3 months is typically the longest it takes. If he still hasn't remembered, it's possible, Mr. Shaw's case is unique, and he may need more time." "How much more time?" she roared. "Ms. Vance, please calm down," the doctor urged. She had no income, no boyfriend. Calming down was not an option. Calm down? How can I calm down? My boyfriend is about to marry someone else. How do you expect me to be calm? "Ms. Vance, given Mr. Shaw's condition, I would suggest you spend more time with him. Take him to places you used to go together. It might help trigger his memory. Useless. You call yourself the best neurologist in the country? If Caleb doesn't remember me, you can kiss your reputation goodbye. Sienna shoved the doctor and stormed out. But before she could put any plan into action, her father showed up at the condo she shared with Leo. Sienna was leaning against Leo, drinking away her sorrows. The sight of her father made her jump to her feet. Dad, what are you? Smack. Mister. Vance slapped her so hard she was stunned into silence. So this is why Caleb quit and went to Hayes Enterprises. You've been running around with another man. You ungrateful child. Are you trying to kill me? Do you have any idea how important Caleb is to our company? Her father was shaking with rage. Dad, it's not my fault. Caleb thinks Eleanor is me. What could I do? Sienna pleaded weakly. I know. I also know you were the one who pushed him into the ocean, he roared. Sienna froze. I'm warning you, her father continued, his voice dangerously low. You better pray Caleb's father never finds out about this. If he does, he'll pull his investment, and don't think for a second that I'll care about our father-daughter relationship then. I'm cutting you off. The majority of Sienna's money had come from me, with a smaller allowance from her father. Now, her father was her only source of income. If he cut her off, she wouldn't survive. Dad, what are you saying? She asked, her voice trembling in disbelief. Her father didn't waste any more words on her. He shot a cold glare at Leo and left. As soon as he was gone, Leo rushed to her side. Sienna, what did your dad mean? He was just joking, right? Sienna sank onto the sofa, completely dazed. She didn't hear a word he said. She never imagined that without me, everything would fall apart. Her heart was in chaos, her mind a mess. That night, I stared at the dozen missed calls on my phone and sat in silence for a long time. Notifications from Sienna kept popping up. I glanced at one. Caleb, please just pick up the phone. I have something really important to tell you. There were many more, but I didn't read them. I turned off my phone and went to bed. A few days later, I received an email inviting me to an interview with a popular online talk show. They mentioned a big prize. I recognized the show and accepted immediately. Eleanor was tense about it. On the day of the recording, she grabbed my hand and pulled me into a tight hug. Good luck, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I smiled. I will. When I arrived at the studio, I saw a massive screen and a full production setup. It was clearly a live broadcast. The host began the interview, and at one point, he asked me about my first love. I fell silent. Then, the large screen to the side began to play a slideshow of photos and videos of me and Sienna from the beginning of our relationship to our engagement. I watched without any reaction. Caleb, do you remember? Sienna's voice filled the studio. She walked onto the stage, her eyes red and glistening with tears. You proposed to me right here. All of New York witnessed it. I don't blame you for losing your memory, for forgetting me and mistaking someone else for me. Because I have always loved you, and my heart will only ever have you. Her performance was so convincing, I almost believed her. In college, I brought you an umbrella in the rain, brought you food, took you out. At graduation, you told me with tears in your eyes that we would be together forever. Don't you remember any of it? I remembered, but I was the one who had done all those things for her. The live chat was flooded with comments about Sienna's deep love and devotion. My parents were in the audience. Caleb, I have the whole city as my witness. I am your girlfriend. Please believe me, Sienna said, stepping forward to take my hand. I think I'm starting to remember, I said, clutching my head. Sienna's eyes lit up. Caleb, really? Do you remember me? She rushed forward, grabbing my hands, her voice thick with emotion. On the other side of the city, Eleanor heard my words on a live stream. She closed her laptop, her gaze falling on a framed photo of us together. Her eyes went dim, and tears began to well. The beautiful dream was finally over. Am I your girlfriend? Do you remember? Sienna pressed, her grip on my hands tightening, her voice urgent. I remember, I said, a cold smile touching my lips. Sienna was so overjoyed she tried to hug me, but I raised my arm and shoved her away. I remember begging you to go out with me for 3 years before you finally agreed. I remember crying with joy when you said yes. And I remember you promising me a lifetime of loyalty. I remember all of it. As I spoke, my own eyes turned red. But do you remember any of it? I shot back. Sienna was speechless. You said you brought me food and an umbrella in college, but I was the one who did all that for you. I gave you everything I had. And you? What did you do? I pressed on. Sienna realized something was terribly wrong. She tried to quiet me, suggesting we talk later. From the look on your face, you don't remember anything. When you were sick, I was the one who ran around everywhere for you, staying by your side day and night. At business dinners, I was the one who drank for you. I worked myself to the bone to manage your family's company, to clean up the messes you made. When you were attacked, I was the one who took a pipe to the ribs to save you. Do you remember any of that? I yelled, my voice raw with anger. For Sienna, I had exhausted every last bit of myself. Caleb, I remember, Sienna said, frantically trying to take my hand. You remember? My eyes were blazing. I raised my hand and pointed to the screen. It flickered to life, displaying a photo of Sienna in bed with another man. She was curled up against the chest of a man whose face was out of frame, her neck covered in love bites. But the man was clearly not me. Sienna's eyes went wide. Caleb, have you no shame? Did you install security cameras? She shrieked. I have no interest in watching your sordid affairs. That man sent it to me himself last night, I said, my voice dripping with cold sarcasm. Sienna's head was spinning. What are you talking about? Leo is too innocent. He would never do something like that, she insisted, still in denial. Yes, he's young, he's innocent. And I'm the vicious, manipulative one, I said, my eyes full of disappointment. She realized her mistake and tried to backtrack, but I stepped away from her. Sienna forgot all about me. She scrambled to shut off the live broadcast equipment and dismiss the crew, then turned and marched toward me. Caleb, are you trying to ruin my life? We were together for 3 years. Did you feel nothing for me in all that time? How could you be so cruel? She demanded. So now you're scared? I looked at her panicked face and laughed, a hollow, painful sound. Caleb, she reached for my hand. But when you pushed me into the ocean to get a laugh out of Leo, did you ever think about whether I was scared? I roared, yanking my hand away. In the audience, my father heard this and nearly collapsed. That terror, that feeling of suffocation, I still have nightmares about it. I wake up screaming every time. But you've been living it up, chasing other men, buying them luxury goods, condos, even sleeping with them. The more I spoke, the more my composure crumbled. I had given her my heart, and she had played with it like a toy. Sienna had nothing to say. I was never serious about Leo. But what about you and Eleanor? How can you judge me when you probably slept with her too? She found her excuse, her voice accusatory. Whether I did or not, what does it have to do with you anymore? I sneered. The old me died the moment you pushed me into that water. Nothing I do from now on has anything to do with you. My gaze on her turned to ash. Seeing the coldness in my eyes, Sienna felt a sharp pain in her chest. She grabbed my hand, still trying to argue. I'm not breaking up with you. I'll dump Leo, fine. I never loved him. The person I love is you. 3 years of me worshiping her had rooted a deep-seated belief in her mind that I would always love her. I pulled my hand away. My father walked onto the stage. You disgusting woman. If you ever come near my son again, I swear the Shaw family will not let you off easy, my father snarled. He then put an arm around me and led me away. Sienna tried to follow, but her phone rang, stopping her in her tracks. You useless girl. You can't even handle one simple thing. As of today, I, Michael Vance, no longer have a daughter. You're on your own. Her father screamed into the phone and hung up before she could reply. Sienna felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over her head, chilling her to the bone. She had lost me, and now her father had disowned her too. She stumbled back to the condo, only to find Leo packing his bags. She ran to stop him. What are you doing? Where are you going? Leo frowned. I'm not the one leaving. You are. This is my house. His usual gentle demeanor was gone, replaced by a cold mask as he pushed her hand away. Sienna looked down and saw that he was packing her clothes. Leo, what does this mean? She couldn't believe the kind, innocent boy she knew could be so cruel. What does it mean? You've ruined my reputation. I got expelled from school because of you, and you're asking what it means. You're broke now, so I have no reason to pretend anymore. Get out of my house right now. The sight of an old woman like you makes me sick. Leo pointed to the door, his face devoid of any emotion. Sienna was stunned. Leo, you said you loved me, she whispered, still not believing it. Love? How much is love worth? Caleb loved you, and you still pushed him into the ocean. I heard he's terrified of water and can't swim. He's lucky to be alive. I'm not as stupid as him, Leo sneered. Looking at the monstrous man in front of her, Sienna couldn't believe he was the same Leo. You deceived me, she screamed, grabbing his collar. At that moment, another woman ran in and shoved Sienna away. Don't touch Leo. Sienna looked at the new, intimate couple, and her world shattered. She recognized the woman, the daughter of a real estate tycoon, a friend of her younger sister. She realized Leo had already secured his next benefactor. I'll kill you, you cheating bastards. Overwhelmed by one blow after another, Sienna completely snapped, her eyes blazing with madness. She grabbed a knife and lunged at the woman. But in the next second, she was tackled to the ground by the woman's bodyguards. They beat her and threw her out of the condo. To make matters worse, her sister sent her a text, rubbing salt in the wound. She gloated that she would take back everything Sienna had given Leo, including the condo, and would also be taking Sienna's former position as vice president at their father's company. Sienna was on the verge of a complete breakdown, but she had to find a place to stay. She called all of her friends, but no one answered, not even Chloe. Sienna had lost everything. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. She was homeless. She remembered a time right after college graduation when she'd gotten into serious trouble, stabbing someone who ended up in the hospital. Her father had thrown her out then, too. It was me who had helped her, who had guided her through the crisis. Back then, all it took was one call, one text, and I would have dropped everything to be by her side. Caleb, Sienna had been sitting outside my house for hours. When I finally came out, she scrambled to her feet and called my name. I stopped and looked at the pathetic figure before me. She was bruised and swollen, her eyes devoid of their former sparkle, her clothes stained with dirt. Ms. Vance, is there something you need? I asked, my face a blank mask. Hear me call her Ms. Vance. Sienna's eyes filled with tears that streamed down her battered face. She knew there was no going back. Caleb, if only you hadn't lost your memory, she sobbed. If you hadn't, we'd probably be married by now. I let out a cold, sharp laugh. How naive she was. I never lost my memory. I remembered you the entire time, I said, my voice flat and cold. But from the moment I woke up in that hospital until today, you never once showed a shred of remorse. Sienna, you shatter my heart into a million pieces. Now, the only thing I feel when I see you is disgust. People who betray true love deserve to swallow 1,000 needles, I said, my voice like ice. Sienna swayed on her feet. Caleb, why did you pretend to have amnesia? And why did you choose Eleanor? She asked, her voice breaking. The moment you pushed me, I was done with you. I wanted you to feel the same pain that I felt. I said, my own eyes turning red, filled with nothing but hatred. In the ICU, surrounded by the beeping of machines, I had felt helpless and furious. The sound of Sienna and Leo's laughter echoed in my mind. Hovering between life and death, I survived. And the first time I opened my eyes and saw Sienna standing by my hospital bed, I knew she felt no guilt. I hated her. I knew she was proud and arrogant, and that her one sore spot was always losing to Eleanor. She couldn't stand to even hear her name. At first, I didn't expect Eleanor to play along, but I took one step toward her, and she ran the rest of the way to me. I knew I was using her, that it was unfair, so I went to work for her company, solving their problems, doing everything I could to make her happy. But after the talk show, she had stopped responding to my messages. Caleb, do you hate me that much? Enough to torture me like this? Sienna pleaded, still not letting go. Please, don't ever contact me again. I had no more time for her. I got in my car and sped toward Eleanor's house. Not long after I left, Sienna was arrested. My father had reported her for attempted murder. She didn't resist. She confessed to everything. I arrived at Eleanor's. Her colleagues had told me she'd been unreachable all afternoon, not answering calls or texts, which was unheard of for the workaholic Eleanor. I rang the doorbell several times with no answer. Worried something had happened, I used my car to climb over the garden wall. The back door of the villa was unlocked. I opened it carefully. Eleanor? Eleanor? I'm coming in, I called out. When I walked into the living room, I froze. One entire wall was dominated by a huge, framed photograph. It was a picture of me and her, taken in college. I stood there for a long time, staring at it. In college, Eleanor and I hadn't known each other well. I just knew she was the most popular girl on campus and a genius. But on graduation day, she had come up to me and asked for a photo together. She had even changed into a white dress for it. I had thought it was just a casual photo between classmates. The picture hung directly across from the sofa, impossible to miss. I searched the house and found her in the upstairs bedroom. The room reeked of alcohol. She was slumped on the floor by the bed, her face flushed, eyes hazy, wearing only a thin silk robe. She was clutching a wine bottle in one hand and a picture frame in the other. Her robe had fallen open, revealing her delicate collarbones. I reached for the wine bottle, and she let it go easily. But when I tried to take the picture frame, her eyes snapped open. Her clear, innocent gaze, clouded with drunkenness, fixed on me. Don't touch it, she slurred, her voice hoarse. Her resistance only made me more curious. Let me see it, please, I asked with a gentle smile. No, she said, a hint of anger in her voice. Seeing how stubborn she was, I didn't press her. I pulled her robe closed, lifted her into my arms, and laid her on the bed. I took off her shoes, then went to get her a glass of water. While she was drinking, I quickly flipped over the frame. It was our graduation photo. Why was this so precious to her? Eleanor, why are you drinking so much? This isn't like you, I said, my voice suddenly serious as I looked at her. Her gaze was hazy, but it was locked on my face. A deep, profound affection shone through the drunken fog. I understood it instantly. She looked away, set down the glass, and put the frame in her bedside drawer. Her expression returned to its usual composure. I heard you got your memory back, she said softly. So you must remember that I'm not your girlfriend, right? I could hear the tremor in her voice. I hesitated, unsure how to tell her I had never lost it in the first place. Shouldn't you be with Sienna right now? She asked, her head bowed. I never lost my memory. I confessed, my eyes filled with guilt. I'm sorry. I used you. Eleanor stared at me, stunned. I came here today to tell you the truth. At first, I just wanted to use your name to get back at her. I never meant to drag you into this, or to get you hurt, I said, unable to meet her eyes. So, did you break up with Sienna? Eleanor asked. I looked up at her. The moment she pushed me into the ocean, we were over. We will never get back together. Good, she replied. Her eyes suddenly brightened, and the color returned to her face. Are you hungry? I can cook for you, she said, getting up from the bed and glancing at the time on her phone. I'm not hungry, I said, confused by her reaction. Aren't you angry? No. She started to walk unsteadily toward the door. I quickly pulled her back, making her lie down again. I thought she must be hungry, so I was about to go make her something to eat, but she grabbed my hand and pulled me down onto the bed with her. My face landed squarely on her chest, separated only by a thin layer of silk. Her warmth and the smooth texture of the fabric sent a jolt through me. I pushed myself up with my hands, my face burning. Sorry, Ms. Hayes. You pulled me, and I lost my balance, I mumbled. I prefer it when you call me Eleanor, she said, her beautiful features softening. You saw the photo in the living room, right? You must know I have feelings for you. I'm not asking for an answer right away. You can take your time. I lowered my eyes. You've liked me since college? Yes. The moment she said it, I leaned in and kissed her. Her lips were soft and warm and tasted of wine. I felt a little drunk myself. As our lips met, her eyes widened in shock. This was our first real kiss. She wrapped her arms around my neck, arching her back to deepen the kiss. After a moment, she rolled over, pinning me beneath her, and kissed me with a fierce, desperate passion. The air in the room grew hot. I shifted, turning us over, so I was on top. Eleanor, I breathed, looking down at her flushed face. My throat felt dry. Don't you think we're moving a little fast? Her gaze was deep, full of longing. I'm sorry. I think I drank too much, she whispered, but her arms wrapped around my waist, holding me close as she closed her eyes, pretending to drift off to sleep. I looked down at her. Her eyelashes were trembling. She was faking. A smile touched my lips, and I wrapped my arms around her. Since I was trapped, I stayed the night. The next morning, my hand brushed against something soft and warm. I opened my eyes to find Eleanor sleeping soundly in my arms. But I noticed she was wearing different clothes and had washed her face. She must have been up for a while. I tried to slip out of bed, but the movement woke her. She reached out and grabbed my arm. I made breakfast, she said hesitantly. Okay, I'll be right there. I'm just going to wash up. I went into the bathroom and found a new toothbrush and toiletries already laid out for me on the counter. When I came out, Eleanor was waiting for me by the door. Eleanor, you could have started without me, I said with a smile. I wanted to wait for you, she said, her expression calm, but I saw her ears turn bright red. She always seemed so composed, but it was surprisingly easy to make her blush. After breakfast, Eleanor looked at me several times, hesitating, before finally asking, her face flushing, so, are we boyfriend and girlfriend now? I smiled. Of course. Eleanor's lips curved into a small, happy smile. After we ate, she told me to look around the house while she cleaned up the kitchen. I glanced into the kitchen and saw the takeout containers from the day she'd brought me food at the hospital. Those meals. She must have cooked them all herself. I walked into the living room, taking in the cool, minimalist decor. It seemed like she lived alone. On the coffee table was a stack of small cards. They looked familiar. I picked one up, and my expression froze. I slipped one of the cards into my pocket. Eleanor, something came up. I have to go. I called toward the kitchen. But as I reached for the doorknob, she was right behind me, tugging on my sleeve. She looked up at me with wide, pleading eyes. I couldn't resist. I leaned her against the door and kissed her thoroughly. When I pulled back, she stared into my eyes and whispered, "Come back soon." I will. When I got home, my dad told me Sienna had been arrested. I was silent for a moment before nodding and heading upstairs. I pulled out a large storage box and opened it. It was filled with gifts. I had only ever opened one of them. I'd assumed they were delivered to me by mistake and had been waiting for someone to claim them. I took out the card from my pocket and compared it to the cards in the box. The handwriting was identical. Starting in college, Eleanor had sent me a gift every year on my birthday. The card always said the same thing, "Happy birthday." But on my birthday the year I started dating Sienna, there was an extra line. "I hope you're happy." Every gift was expensive and thoughtful. I picked up my phone and called Eleanor. "Eleanor," I said with a smile, "let's get married." There was a pause on the other end, and then it choked. "Okay." Eleanor first saw me at a battle of the bands. I was on stage, playing guitar and singing. It was a warm summer night, the air filled with the sound of cicadas and the melody of my song. I had short, messy hair and was wearing a plain white t-shirt and black jeans. I was all sunshine and energy. Eleanor was captivated. She stood in the crowd, her eyes fixed on me long after the performance ended. "Did you like it?" I asked, walking over to her after I'd put down my guitar. My smile was wide and easy. She fell for me in that instant. After that, she tried to find me, just to ask my name, but right as she did, her family took her abroad. She had to take 2 years off from school. By the time she came back, I was with Sienna. She heard I'd even been hospitalized for Sienna's sake. The news sent her into a panic, and she rushed to the hospital to find me. She was relieved to see I was okay. She sent me gifts every year, but she never let me see her. Until this year, when she saw my live-stream proposal to Sienna. At that point, she finally gave up. She spent the entire night drinking. The watch she had bought for my birthday left unsent. But one night, a client invited her to a club to discuss business. She had a few drinks and was about to leave when I suddenly appeared in front of her. I ran to her with a smile, wrapped my arms around her, and called her Eleanor with an intimacy that stunned her. For a long time, she thought she was dreaming. She didn't dare touch me, afraid the slightest contact would make me vanish. It wasn't until Sienna showed up that she realized it was real. I had lost my memory, and I thought she was my girlfriend. She saw it as an opportunity, but she hesitated. She knew how much I loved Sienna. She knew I would eventually leave her. But when she heard I was in the hospital again, she couldn't stay away. She saw how exhausted I looked, how the light had gone out of my eyes. Her heart ached for me. She suddenly couldn't bear to let me go. If Sienna couldn't take care of me, then she would. But she talked to the doctor, who told her I would likely regain my memory within 3 months. So she counted down the days, taking me to every place she could think of, hoping to leave some small trace of herself in my life. But when she heard me say the words that I remembered, she was torn. She didn't want to let go, but she wanted me to be happy. Then she woke up from a drunken haze, and I was there, looking at her with the same handsome, sunny face from college, my eyes full of concern. I told her I hadn't lost my memory. She was shocked at first, but seeing the guilt on my face, she felt a secret sense of relief. Relief that I hadn't forgotten, and relief that I had chosen her. As long as she could be with me, she was willing to do anything. Later, when I was the one who asked her to marry me, she was so overwhelmed with emotion she couldn't speak, but she managed to answer right away. We had a huge wedding, so grand that everyone in New York knew about it. She wanted the entire world to know that I was hers. And even now, Eleanor opens her eyes and sees me lying beside her. Her expression softens, and she pulls me into a tight hug, her lips finding mine. "Caleb, I love you," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "I love you too," I smile. Eleanor finally got her wish, and I found my happily ever after.